Hello and welcome to another episode of the e-commerce coffee break. A huge topic that we have not had on the podcast for a while is traffic. Now, having all the apps, all the AI in the world on your website doesn't help you if you have the visitors, you have the traffic to your store, to your website. So that's a topic we want to talk about today. And we want to find out what are the biggest traffic mistakes people have. We're talking about cold traffic, warm traffic, all of this. With me on the show today is Leo Ebbert. He's the founder and president of exactclickdigital, a boutique agency specializing in paid ads management. Leo began his career as a certified public accountant at Deloitte in Phoenix, Arizona, and in 2007 he founded exactclickdigital in his hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee. Since founding exactclickdigital, Leo and his team have helped dozens of brands drive over 1 million conversions through paid advertising. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. So let's welcome Leo to the show. Hi, Leo. How are you today?
Great, Klaus. Excited to be here.
Leo, a lot of things have happened in the last 18 months when it comes to paid traffic. Started with iOS 14 and everything that happened then to Facebook, and Google is sort of on the same train or on the same track in changing things. So literally things will not become easier. So traffic is out there, tons of traffic. The traffic always has been there. Catching the traffic has become more difficult. Give a bit of an overview from your perspective, what you think has happened and what's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out the iOS 14 update. That was kind of the initial salvo on this change regarding, privacy, which of course impacts attribution massively. And that's really the issue for people like me and the people that I work with. It's like you point out, traffic is there. It's just what is converting and what is not, because no one wants to pay for traffic that doesn't convert or doesn't drive the action they need. And if you don't have proper attribution, well, it's like, how do you manage that effectively? So iOS 14 had a tremendous impact on attribution. It kind of forced Facebook into a situation they didn't want to be in, where they are forced to model conversions. Okay, so they can't actually tell you with 100% certainty whether someone did an action that they think they did if that person flowed through the iOS. So if they're using their iPhone, okay, or an iPad. So that creates some ambiguity. It forces Facebook to try to piece it together other ways. And they are now what they're calling modeling. Okay? They're modeling conversion data because they have to. Now, there are ways to kind of mitigate that risk for the advertiser on whether they're modeling it correctly or not. And we could talk about that if you'd like, but on the broader context, you asked the question of where is this going? Well, Google is actually headed to the same place. They put out a guide just a few months ago talking about, can't remember the term they used for it. It's a new form of tracking, but basically it said the same thing. It's kind of buried in this 30-page report. And they said, basically this is going to lead us towards model conversions, which is the same thing Facebook is doing. And at first I was very surprised. I thought, why would Google push for this? You'd think they would use this as a differentiator to say, hey, we're not modeling, we're more accurate than Facebook is. But instead they want to, they're changing Chrome privacy settings so that you won't be able to, within, a year or two or something, you won't be able to track conversions the same way you used to. And I think the reason is because, they like this position where they can kind of take credit for whatever they want to take credit for. You know what I mean? So if they say, hey, we're modeling it, then it's like, well, we're not, it's basically saying we're not accountable. And we can kind of say, hey, we think we're converting this much for you, even if they maybe aren't, right? But that is where the industry is headed.
Okay, very good point that you mentioned that obviously they are claiming the traffic is coming from them as a good reason that you spend more money on the platform. I think that's the main purpose there. Now, when it comes to the attribution model, a lot of merchants or a lot of platforms trying to go a sort of a different way, and third-party cookies sort of falling away. Now we're going into first-party cookies and then really on a server-based landscape on the whole thing. That's a lot of technology for small and medium business to implement and to get their head around on how that works. What's your experience? What's happening there right now?
Yeah, so that it does introduce complexity, and it makes the ad platform further out of reach for the most basic users, right? Google and Facebook, they try to cater to kind of the intro user, people that are beginning or they don't have the money to pay someone like me, right? And the problem is when they add this complexity, it makes that even further out of reach for those people. But really, I don't even think you necessarily need a third-party tracker. I think the better approach is, especially if you're trying to keep it a lean advertising operation, is rely on UTM codes. Because what that'll give you is the data inside of Google Analytics where you can see the actual click traffic and the click conversions. Okay, now you don't get the visibility on view through, but view through was always kind of nebulous anyway, right? We never really were sure with view through data, is it really driving the conversions or would those people have converted anyway? What most advertisers or brand owners especially care about is, what did the clickers do? Did they come to my website and convert? And you can really solve that problem with UTM codes without worrying too much about any kind of complicated third-party tracking.
Okay. Interesting topic there with UTM codes, working with that. And I want to know a little bit more on how you do that. Obviously, it's multi-touch nowadays. It's omni-channel marketing, multi-touch. And somebody who sees your ad on one platform does not necessarily buy theirs, but goes all the way and buys from somewhere else. How do you do the attribution there? I mean, you had like 1 million conversions tracked. What's your experience? What's the best way to find out where's actually the first point of contact and where do they convert?
Yeah, that's always also kind of an open question, right? Did someone see your website on Facebook and then go to Google and search you? And then did they come in through an organic link, or did they come in through the paid ad itself, or they do all three of those, right? You have to kind of find a way to break those up. And that's why I think, if you rely on the UTM code, let it flow through Google Analytics, you get some of that visibility. And there will always be an open question. There will always be that question of how many touches did they get and which one really drove the result. Even if the last one got the lion's share of the attribution, was it really the one at the front end that drove that conversion? So you have to, part of that is just getting a sense for where your traffic is coming from and knowing that, okay, if I'm getting most of my traffic through Facebook, my initial traffic, I should say, even if I see further conversions down the funnel coming from Google, but I'm not driving as much paid ads there, that's a good indication that Facebook's the primary driver. Another way is just looking at engagement. If the traffic from Facebook spends more time on the site, if they view more pages, if they tend to add things to the cart at a higher rate, those are all indications that traffic is of a higher value. And there are also metrics within Google Analytics. There's I think they call it value per page visit or value per page click, something like that. And it'll say, for all the revenue that came through or all the traffic that came through this source from Facebook ads or Google ads, or whatever the source is, we tracked X number of dollars. So we're going to divide those two and give you kind of a value per page view from that source. And that's a really important metric because you can get a really clear picture of, okay, look, looking at the law of averages, I'm getting a higher return on my ad spend out of Facebook versus Google or organic or whatever it is.
Okay, I want to take one step back and have a bit of a broader view. With exactclickdigital, you're a boutique marketing agency, and how does your strategy apply to warm traffic, cold traffic? How do you blend that in?
Yeah, that's a really important question when it comes to paid ads, because of course you have cold traffic. Everybody wants to scale. And the only way you scale is with cold traffic, right? It has to be people that don't know you exist. And then you have your warm traffic, people within your funnel that already know who you are. They maybe bought from you before, or they maybe are just getting acquainted with you. So there are a lot of important ways to make sure you're maximizing the returns from both of those market segments. So I'll start with, I always encourage people, you start from the bottom of the funnel and you build up from there. It does not make sense to, if you think of like pouring liquid into a funnel, and if the funnel has, leaks and holes all over it, and you're just pouring it in the top, you're going to lose a lot of stuff at the sides, right? So you clean up the funnel first. And the way you do that is you start with the people most interested, and that's people who have added to the cart but didn't buy, or it's people who have bought from you before, or it's people who have shown a high level of engagement recently, okay? So, someone that added to the cart and abandoned it 6 months ago, and hasn't been back to the site, they're not that valuable to you, right? But if they did that 5 days ago, they're very valuable because you're in that window where they're thinking about it, they're serious. Can you close that gap? So you build out a funnel around that group of people and you build up from there. Okay, so if you compare that group I just mentioned to someone who has maybe engaged with you on social media, or maybe they've browsed a page or two on your site, they are higher up that funnel, right? They're not as deep, but they're still showing engagement, they're still showing interest. So you don't ignore them, but you don't assign as much value to the people up here in your funnel as you do the people down here in your funnel. And that's really the key. You have to think of every set of eyeballs anywhere along that funnel as having a value. They are worth something to you on the average. Okay, not all of them will convert, but on the average, they're going to be worth something to you. So you have to figure out what that value is, and then you maximize the results within that part of your funnel all the way down. Once that's clean, once you know the funnel, the ads funnel is converting well, it's driving the return you need it to drive, now you can pour stuff into the top, right? Because you pour that cold traffic in, they're going to need multiple touches, and they're going to need to go through an ads funnel that's clean and tight and very effective. And that's how you maximize your top of funnel traffic. Really, you do it by making sure your middle and bottom of funnel traffic are good and clean and strong.
No, makes perfect sense. When it comes to spending money on paid ads, specifically in the e-commerce space, Shopify areas, what's the experience in regards of budgeting? Because paid advertising is getting more and more expensive. The good times like 6-7 years ago, when there was Teespring around and the conversion was like $2-3, these are over and they will not come back. So what's experience? What should be like the minimum average order value or in that range where it really makes sense to spend money on ads?
Yeah, good question. So it's the average order value, or AOV, has a huge impact on your ads results. Okay, so you mentioned Teespring, right? So if you're selling t-shirts and your AOV is like $14 or something, you're going to have a really tough time. It's just really, really hard. As you mentioned, those $2 and $3 conversions are gone and will never return. Now we might see a dip in ad costs over the next year or so, I think, possibly, but it won't be anything like what you just pointed out, right? So you have to find a way to raise the average order value. Really, it's kind of like minimum. If you kind of are in that $50 range, you have a pretty good shot at making things work. But obviously, the higher the better. Now, we actually specialize in e-commerce stores that have a higher AOV than average. So anything that's in like that $200 to $300 plus range, we have a really good system built around that because we know how to make it work on Facebook ads especially. And the reason is you get kind of these economies of scale. The ad costs are, even if you're selling a $50 thing or a $300 thing, you may not see much of a difference in the ad costs. And if your conversion rate is relatively close, right, between those two, then you're going to make out like a bandit with an AOV at $200 to $300 versus $50. Okay, so it has a huge impact. It's not everything. Margins, of course, are important. You can of course improve on messaging, some targeting and stuff like that. But yeah, it makes my job, for someone like me, it makes it a lot easier if we have a healthy average order value and a healthy margin backing it up to give room to really play and find what's going to work.
Yeah. Google came up with Google Performance Max a while ago. I see something similar, and correct me if I'm wrong, in Facebook right now. They have like Advantage Shopping Plus or something like that. Give me an overview. What do you think are these AI tools that sort of should make it easier for a user doing the ads by himself compared to a manual setup? Where are the advantages and disadvantages?
Yeah, well, both platforms are heavily pushing it. So the disadvantage of not using their kind of smart, we'll call them smart campaigns, is you're in a sense swimming against the current. Okay, so Facebook and Google both, they want more of that traffic, and so they kind of favor, in a sense, campaigns that are using them. And it's not that every account we use sees better performance with those campaigns, but I will say, like 2 years ago, almost none of my clients did better with smart campaigns versus manual. It's kind of flipped now. It's now that almost none of my clients are better with manual versus smart campaigns. So the smart campaigns are getting better. They're getting more and more effective. There's still nuance in it. Shockingly, you'd think, okay, it's a smart campaign. I can just like set it up and let it run. That's not really true. There's still quite a bit of nuance. Even within smart campaigns, you can test different kind of mini objectives within it, and that can have a huge impact on results. So I think that will always exist to a degree. As hard as they will try to simplify things, and I think overall it's a good thing to simplify. But there will always be nuance to it, and always be ways to improve it and test it, modify it in a way that's going to make it better than if you just use kind of the out of the box solution. But I don't see that trend reversing anytime soon. I think these smart campaigns are just just getting started. It's going to continue to shift that way.
Okay. I'm a big fan of diversification of your ad spend. Obviously, there are the two big ones. There's Google ads, there's Facebook ads, and there's others there. What's your experience there? How would you split for one of your customers, the brands that you work with, their ad spend on not only these two platforms, but maybe also others? And if yes, which platforms would you prefer there?
Yeah. I mean, those two are definitely still, in my experience, far and away the best. You're most likely to succeed there and get the returns you want compared to others. And it depends a little bit on who your target demographic is. Like TikTok or Snapchat, for example, tends to be a much younger demographic. So if that's your demo, yeah, you should be on there and try to kind of find ways to make it work. If it's not, I would not push it unless you are really maximizing Google and Facebook already, and you've got a good kind of creative behind you that is kind of tailored, for example, for TikTok, right? So yeah, really, it will depend a lot on demographic. Whereas Facebook and Google, it doesn't really matter who your demographic is. They're on both of those channels, right? Twitter. I actually think Twitter might be starting to turn a corner. And historically, it's just been horrific for like conversion focus. It's been more of kind of a branding or awareness thing. It's just, hey, I've got ad dollars and I want to say I'm on all the major channels, so I'll throw some budget towards Twitter, right? But I think that might actually shift. They actually have a demographic that's more in line with kind of the older crowd, the more people that tend to have more money, disposable income. So I think you might see some ad dollars shift there. But those are, it's really kind of Google and Facebook. I actually, one kind of, I don't know if dark horse candidate is the right word, but I think people minimize the importance of being on Microsoft/Bing. It's not that it's going to make your day or make your quarter, but it's a steady kind of or incremental source for traffic and conversions that people discount, especially if you have an older demographic. It tends to be older, and older people have a lot of disposable income. So if that's your demographic and you're not advertising on Bing/Microsoft, then it's probably a missed opportunity for some low-hanging fruit. Again, it's not going to you're not going to make anybody's day or quarter by getting them on Bing, but it's just steady kind of convertible traffic.
Yeah, I think that's a gold nugget that you gave away. Bing is sort of for a long time, sort of a hidden secret. It won't make you rich, but again, every dollar counts. So you definitely should have a look into it. Now, I understand that exactclickdigital is a boutique agency. A lot of persons that I speak with, they have at some point in their business been burned by agencies in one way or the other. Where do you differentiate through a normal agency model?
I appreciate you asking that. And I see that all the time. We do a lot of audits. People will come and say, can you look at what's going on in the account? Tell us if this is the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. And sometimes I'm amazed when we see an account run by even very expensive agencies, and just kind of the lack of detail. Really, I think it comes down to people that just do not care, frankly. I mean, you have someone running the ad account that is, you're just a number to them, or they're just, they're just checking off boxes. They're not really thinking about your account. So that tends to happen with bigger agencies, right? You're dealing with, there's a lot of turnover. You might get moved from one account manager to the next. Sometimes you don't even realize you've been moved. But on the other side, you have freelancers. And if I had to choose personally, I would lean towards freelancers. The downside to freelancers is that, they only have so much time a day, right? They tend to get overworked. It's hard for them to turn down new work because, they're a freelancer and they, that impacts their bottom line. It goes, a lot of it goes straight to the bottom line. So they tend to get spread thin. They might take on more clients than they need to or should or can't. So I try to kind of strike a middle path between. I quarterback all of my client accounts. I know every single one of my clients, what their needs are, what their objectives are, and how their accounts are doing. But I have staff that help me implement. All right. And so I think that's kind of a nice middle ground that we've carved out. And I know that will limit kind of our top end growth. I'm personally okay with that. It's a strategic decision that we've made to make sure that you have. I'm the industry vet. I've been doing it almost 15 years now. So you can really leverage my knowledge and my understanding, but I can then leverage my knowledge and understanding by having people behind me that will implement the things in the way that I want them implemented and still, get the results my clients want. So we're kind of that, the best of both worlds is the way we pitch it and perceive it. You get the scale of an agency, but you get the personal touch and, kind of high quality knowledge of a freelancer.
Okay. Yeah. Doing this for 15 years, real time is like 90 years in internet years. So that's a long time.
Right.
Where can people find out more about exactclickdigital and what you provide?
Yeah, go to my website, exactclickdigital.com. You can obviously book a call if you'd like. I also have some free guides there. There are two of them. One is the top 5 mistakes your digital marketer is probably making. And the other one is how to audit your digital marketer. Okay, so if you just want to know, how's my digital marketer doing? You just don't even know where to look. It's a very simple, I think 5 or 6 lessons. They're short videos, about 5 minutes long each. It'll show you exactly where to look, things you want to watch out for, red flags. Now, if you get in there and do that, your digital marketer is checking off all those boxes. Congratulations, you're one of the lucky ones. So you might want to hang on to that digital marketer. But if not, give us a call. We'd be happy to chat. We could do a more in-depth audit. We'll show you the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll be totally honest with you and let you know how we can or cannot help you. So yes, go to exactclickdigital.com. And you can book that call there or download or watch those guides.
Okay, I will definitely look into the guides myself. I want to know where I'm standing there. So that's something I do. I will put the links in the show notes as always, and you're just one click away. Leo, thanks so much for giving an overview about what's happening right now in the world of paid advertising. I think we can agree that we are always chasing a moving target there. It never gets boring. It's always changing. And I hope that some people will, when they listen to this episode, go to your website, download the guides, and get some more value out of that.
Great. Thanks, Klaus.
Thanks so much for your time. Have a great day.
You too.
Hey, Klaus here. Before you go, I would like to invite you to become part of the e-commerce merchant pro community to get actionable advice from other Shopify merchants who already have achieved what you are aiming for. Our community is a safe place to actively grow your online retail business with the support of the most amazing and helpful group of e-commerce entrepreneurs behind you. Running a Shopify business is tough. Don't do it alone. Join us now. You will find the link in the show notes. Also, if you think your online store has conversion or marketing issues and you would like to have a fresh set of eyes on your business, then drop me an email at klaus@klauslauter.com and let me know a little bit about your business. It might be beneficial for you to have me look over your store, offers, emails, and ads and get an unbiased outside perspective and guidance to help you make most of your online business. Thank you as always for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Until next time, and I talk to you soon.